From the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. We are brought to you by Papa John's. I'm Jenny Carlson, and he's Barry Trammell. Time to pick some games, Barry. We've got some great ones this week in college football, so let's get to it. First of all, the big ACC clash, Florida State at Clemson. Who you got?
I'll tell you how good of a game this is. I really had no clue who to pick. I mean, I think it's an even match. I like Florida State a little bit better than Clemson, but I like Clemson because they're at home. I think both teams have shown that they're really good, solid, frankly, national contenders. I'm going to go with Clemson, but it's tight. I'm going to go Clemson. Brent Venables win a tight one against Florida State.
The revenge of Brent Venables playing Jameis Winston. I'm also going with Clemson in this one. I like that they're at home. If this game was at Florida State, I think I might have to pick the Seminoles, but I'm going with the Tigers. I think I'm going to try to figure out a way to watch this one, Barry. What time is it? Do you know?
I think it's a night game.
All right. I might be able to keep an eye on that. Hey, let's go to the West Coast. UCLA goes to Stanford. Barry, can Stanford get back on the winning track?
I'm actually going to take UCLA in the upset. The Bruins are unbeaten and ranked in the top 10, but they're about a 6-point underdog going to Stanford. I just don't like the way this Stanford team has played this year. You know, they go to Army and mess around all day. They could have lost at home to Washington, and then they get upset last week. So I like the way UCLA is playing better than the way I like Stanford is playing. I'm going to take the Bruins in an upset.
I'm going to stick with Stanford on this one, but I really had to give a lot of thought to who I thought would win this game. And, Stanford losing, definitely not what you want to see. But before they lost that game, I thought Stanford was on sort of the cusp of being in that national championship conversation, and that if they could upend Oregon, that maybe they'd have an outside chance of getting into the championship game. So I'm going to withhold judgment on saying they're completely out of it, but obviously did not look good a week ago against the Utes. We'll see how they fare against the Bruins. All right, Barry, what about this SEC game? Florida goes to play Missouri, the upstart Tigers.
Missouri, the surprise of the nation, get that big win at Georgia last week, but it came at a price. They lose quarterback James Franklin, 3 to 5 weeks. They really need him against the Gators, who play big-time defense. Now, Florida doesn't score much. It'll be a tight game. It'll be a close game, but I like Florida because Missouri's playing without its quarterback.
Are you saying this might be a low-scoring game in the SEC?
Yeah, out of the ordinary.
I know, it's become a scoring central. I'm going with Florida in this one. I'm not yet quite to the point where I think Missouri is a team that can just win all these games. I mean, the SEC, it's a minefield. I mean, yes, they won a great game against Georgia last week, but boy, it seems like every time you turn around, you're tested again. And clearly losing Franklin is a big, big hurdle for Missouri to have to clear. But if they can upset Florida, wow. Then I'll believe. I'll believe they're
probably
for real.
Win the East. Probably win the East.
Definitely so. All right, Barry, let's talk about the two Big 12 games involving our local teams. Oklahoma goes to Kansas. Any upset possibility here?
I don't see it. I mean, it probably would have helped Kansas if the Sooners had beaten Texas. Oklahoma might be on some sort of letdown just from the high. Sooners will have Bob Stoops will have the Sooners' attention in Lawrence. Kansas is just a mess of a football program. Charlie Weiss making staff changes this week in terms of who's got responsibilities. It's a mess. Kansas State tends to play people fairly close. Good part of the time. I don't think it'll be a runaway, but I do think the Sooners win solidly.
Hey, Charlie Weiss said these guys look like a pile of crap, and so far, they've pretty much lived up to his preseason expectations of this team. I'm going with OU in this one, and I think, Barry, what you said is exactly right. The fact that Oklahoma loses to Texas, it changes the whole tenor of this game. I mean, they really understand they got to get going. They got to make sure the offense is clicking. The defense now playing without two guys that would have been mainstays in the middle of that defense. They've really got to start to adjust to the fact that they're not going to be there this year. So, yeah, this might have been a different situation. I might have picked a little closer game had that upset to Texas not happen, but no way Oklahoma goes to Kansas and doesn't win that ball game. All right, lastly, Barry, TCU comes to Oklahoma State, a game that before the season started we felt like might be a determinant in the Big 12 race. How does this one come down?
Well, it's two disappointing teams. TCU disappointing in the results. They've lost 3 games. OSU disappointing in the way they've played. Even in victory, the Cowboys haven't looked all that well. Lose at West Virginia, struggle past K-State. I just don't like the way this OSU offense is playing. They're just not getting much done, and now they're going against a defense that is a big upgrade on anything they've seen yet. TCU can't really move the ball much, but TCU plays defense. I think they're going to give the Cowboys a day-long frustration. I'm going with the Horned Frogs.
Uh-oh, upset in Stillwater. Well, I'm going with the Cowboys. So we balance each other out. Yeah, I think TCU's defense is really good. But you know what? I've seen a lot of Oklahoma State, and I think the Cowboy defense is pretty good too. And I'll tell you what is awful? The TCU offense. It is awful. Oklahoma State's offense, it's been disappointing, but it's nowhere as bad as that TCU offense. Without Casey Payhall at quarterback after he hurt his arm, they've just struggled all season to get anything going. TCU came to Oklahoma State a year ago, and that offense was just totally ineffective, wasn't able to do anything. OSU won pretty easily. I think that happens again. It may not be high scoring. It may not be leaving the third quarter if you're an OSU fan. But TCU's offense, as good as their defense is, their offense has been just that terrible. I got to give OSU the advantage. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.